glowed fiery red. The furious terrors flew around on golden chariots raging with red wheels dropping with blood. The lions lash with wrathful tails. The tigers couch upon the prey and suck the ruddy tide. And Eneth Marmon groans and cries in anguish and dismay. Then Los arose his head. He red, in snaky thunders clad, and with a cry that shook all nature to the utmost pole, called all his sons to the strife of blood.
Hello, Roger Lewis, Tone Freaks. That was the last few bars and stanzas from Europe of Prophecy by William Blake. And I've been putting together a blog which has got stuck processing on YouTube. So I thought I'd just whiz through and do a quick whistle stop of the blog which I did yesterday. This is it on Grub Street in Exile, the Substack. Now, William Blake was a poet and artist, and his poetry is explained by faculties which we have, which we don't use very much. And in this picture here, this gentleman, Ben Macbrady, is the last druid. And this is a 1970s documentary. And this blog post video essay is about lost knowledge. We've lost ourselves. We've lost our cultural connection to our past. And William Blake knew that. Ben Macbrady knew that. Other people who've known it down the ages, and is someone called Pelagius. And this quote here: man's status is better and higher for the very reason for which it is thought to be inferior. Now, what Pelagius meant by that was that we do have free will. And what happened to our knowledge of our free will and of our personal agency, our ability to affect actions and our own actions through our own thoughts? Well, I think it was sometime between the 4th century of the Common Era, AD, when Pelagius was basically expelled from the Catholic Church. He had a dispute with St. Augustine, and so that was all around the time as the Council of Nicaea, the Constantine Covenant, etc. Then, if we fast forward then to 627 AD, Kofi was the priest of Edmund, who was the king of Northumberland, and we're going to come to a longer quote, but so this life of man appears for a short space, but of what went before or what is to follow, we are utterly ignorant, which is very true. But he goes on to say that the king should sort of sanction people converting to Christianity at that stage. Now, that's an ecclesiastical form of organized religion rather than the spiritual connection back to the spiritual religious connection to the earth, etc. So that's kind of where this is going, and then we're going to get to some Boudica who fought the Romans, basically at the in the period of the Roman occupation. So first up, just on what William Blake is saying in Europe of Prophecy, and I'm going to read this now. In Europe of Prophecy, William Blake uses the character's representation to demonstrate his perspective regarding the French Revolution in Europe. In the poem, Los is in preparation for a war besides Orc, who arrives with furious terror and golden chariots. In a Blake dictionary, Los represents poetry, which is an expression of the creative imagination. He is the manifestation of Urthona, the representation of the creative imagination in the individual. Moreover, Orc is a representation of revolution in the material world. The combination of Los and Orc in the war illustrates Blake's prophetic vision for the discovery of the creative imagination through revolution. However, this revolution is because of repressed love. In other words, Blake is arguing for a non-violent revolution through the use of poetry to discover the creative imagination or the poetic genius, which inhabits every individual. Orc arrives with furious terror because he is the representation of revolution, and his emotions is a representation of the individuals involved in the revolution. Furthermore, he arrives with golden chariots, a reference to the Greek god of the sun, Apollo, and the chariots bring light to the world. In other words, poetry and revolution will bring furious terror to the individuals, which will bring light to the world with the discovery of one's creative imagination. William Blake criticizes the environment of reason during the French Revolution and advocated for revolution through the use of poetry to discover one's creative imagination. Blake's argument reinforces his perspective regarding the significance of contraries in understanding the world. Therefore, the importance of these contraries, creativity in the age of reason, is critical in comprehending the revolution, and that's by Hongzhi Su, and a link in the description to the there's a study course on Blake that actually comes from. So I'm now going to play If Dirt Were Dollars by Don Henley, just to it's from his End of the Innocence album, classic album, and let's just So that was Don Henley there. You can hear Annie Lennox doing backing vocals on that brilliant album, End of the Age of Innocence. Here's Ben McBrady again, and I did a blog called Say Yes to Life, Free Will and Liberty, covered purpose. Now, effectively, we're, as a society, as a community, being asked to accept that we're not as good as we are, that we haven't got agency, etc. And that was the beef between Saint Augustine.
So what made us consider that outer space is the leading cause of the abrupt climate changes on Earth?
For a pain on the internet these days. That's actually from Naomi Prince's book, How Central Bankers Rigged the World, which comes up if you play the Don Henley track. The things are in the description. But back to Ben McBrady, and then we're going to get on to Boudica. So effectively, we'll get to what got me to this point of actually doing this this blog. Frances Leader, who, and one of her Substack blogs is Boudica, has been doing a lot of writing about 5G, electromagnetic radiation, and the harms it does. And I found a book on the Mark Windows blog from 2018 by Olga Sheehan, who was interviewed by another gentleman, Robert David Steele. We'll get to this as we go down. This threw up a bunch of questions, which from something that Olga was saying about how we've forgotten. We've forgotten who we are, where we come from. And Ben McBrady and the documentary came to mind. And putting a few of these pieces together, I then came to this blog. So man's status is better and higher for the very reason for which it is thought to be inferior. Now, another thing that became apparent to me, I was talking to another friend of mine the other day who's a Latin scholar, and he was talking about the satires of Juvenal. And Juvenal coined the phrase bread and circuses, but he also coined a phrase about who watches the watchers. Sed qui custode ipsos custodes, which is, who watches the watchers. And that's the satire 6, the decay of feminine virtue. Now, healing the self to heal the earth is what Olga Sheehan was saying. And then a final part in the mix now is Boudica's rebellion. And I'm going to read some longer quotes from Boudica's rebellion, but next we're just going to have some of this here. Boudica's rebellion. It is in my mind. Death or slavery have their own choices are not readily going to release it war. Behold the proud display of warlike spirits, and consider the motives for which we draw the avenging sword. On this spot we must either conquer or die with glory. There is no alternative. Though a woman, my resolution is fixed. The men, if they please, may survive with infamy and live in bondage. So I hate cutting off tracks in the middle. Then my reading of Europe a Prophecy, which I set to the Gaelic Symphony, and that's what was playing us in as we came in. And there's a link to that. And William Blake, I explained earlier with that other slide. Shing Song Xu's short summary of what Blake is getting at. And so this idea that to resolve the problems that we face, we have to heal ourselves, find ourselves, and as Ben McBrady puts it, we have to say no to the naysayers of life. And like Molly and Ulysses, we have to say yes to life. Yes, yes, yes. And so next, before we get into some more quotes from Boudica, which access some of these forgotten memories of our standings within our own communities, I'm now going to play Selling England by the Pound by Genesis.
This is my song. It's called Dancing with the Moonlit Night. Can you tell me where my country lies? Cried the unicorn to his true love's eyes. It lies with me, cried the Queen of Maybe, for her merchandise he traded in his price. Paper late, cried a voice in the crowd. Old man dies, the note he left was signed on Father Thames. It seems he's drowned, selling England by the pound. Citizens of hope and glory, time goes by, it's the time of your life. Easy now, sit you down, chewing through their wimpy dreams. Without a sound, digesting England by the pound. Young man says you are what you eat well. Old man says you are what you wear, well, well. You know what you are, you don't give a damn. Bursting your belt, that is your homemade sham. The captain leaves.
So we'll just hold that at that break there and move on. Now, Francis Leader on the Boudica channel did a post called The Megalithic Religion, and she said, a beautiful Welsh gypsy heard me bewailing the loss of my stock of herbal medicine. The British government had made it illegal to import essential healing herbs from China at that time. The Welsh gypsy laughed at me. She said, Fran, your love does the healing. You need nothing more. And we both giggled. So then we get into, as we go through this narrative in this blog here, Robert David Steele, his BitChute channel, which shows his journey actually from CIA spy and part of the Steve Pachenik Mockingbird Media, Project Monarch, psychological war on the US population and the rest of the world. One CIA director said that their job would be done when everything that people believed was false. And this is the last Druid documentary then. This is, I've had it on my BitChute channel for some time. That's the link there. And this is the original link, which has been up for many years on YouTube, and is an amazing documentary. So, right, where did we lose our way? This is Kofi's quote to Edwin, and he said, "The present life of man, O king, seems to me in comparison of that time which is unknown to us, like to the swift flight of a sparrow through the room wherein you sit at supper in winter, with your commanders and ministers, and a good fire in the midst, while the storms of rain and snow prevail abroad. The sparrow, I say, flying in at one door and immediately out at another, whilst he is within, is safe from the wintry storm. But after a short space of fair weather, he immediately vanishes out of your sight into the dark winter from which he had emerged. So this life of man appears for a short space, but of what went before or what is to follow, we are utterly ignorant. If therefore this new doctrine contains something more certain, it seems justly to deserve to be followed." So Bede, Book 2, Chapter 13, this was the advice given to Edwin, King of Northumbria, by one of his chief men at a meeting where the king proposed that he and his followers should convert to Christianity. It followed a speech by the chief priest, Kofi, who also spoke in favour of conversion. Now, this is not anti-Christianity at all. What this, the view I'm putting forward is that the ecclesiastical dogma of the organized religion, both of the Roman Church, which obviously it would have been at that time, but also of the Anglican Church and all the various flavors, including Catholicism, are in their dogmas corrupted. If you watch Umberto Eco's film or read his book, The Name of the Rose, you get something of the, where I come from this, I'm with Pelagius, and Pelagius and you know, the choice between two ways is what makes us what we are and who we are. It makes it gives us agency and free will. So now we're going to get to some Boudica quotes. Through real experiences, so that even if earlier some of you through ignorance of what was superior were tricked by the tempting promises of the Romans, you now, having tried both, have learned how great a mistake you made in preferring an imported tyranny to your ancient way of life. And you know how much penury without a master surpasses wealth as a slave. For what of the most shameful, the most distressing sort have we not experienced since these people have taken themselves to Britain? Have we not been robbed entirely of most of our greatest possessions? And do we not pay taxes on the rest? Besides pasturing and farming for them, do we not pay yearly tribute for our own bodies? By how much would it have been better to be sold once and for all, rather than to be held ransom each year with the empty titles of freedom? By how much would it have been better to be slain and die than to endure while subject to a head tax? And yet why did I say this? For among them not even dying is scot-free, but you know how much we pay even for our dead. With other people, death frees even those who are enslaved, but with the Romans alone, the dead live on for gain. And why is it that, even though none of us has money, for how would we get it, and from where, we are sold and stripped like victims of a homicide? And why should they be moderate in the time to come, when they have treated us in this fashion immediately, and when all men treat even newly caught beasts well? To speak the truth, we are responsible for all these evils, as some of us entrusted them to set foot on the island to begin with, and did not immediately drive them off, as we did under the famous Julius Caesar, and we did not as we did with both. Now, there's a collection of Boudicca's speeches from which this is taken, and I'm going to read on further. Augustus and Gaius Caligula make an attempt at a formidable voyage. Thus, though we inhabit so large an island, rather a continent surrounded by water, and though we have our own world and are cut off by the ocean from all other people to such an extent that we have been believed to inhabit another land and sky, and even some of the wisest men have not previously known our name accurately, we have been disdained and trampled on by people who know nothing other than greed. But although we have not done the proper things beforehand, let us, my countrymen and friends and kinsmen, for I consider you kinsmen, since you inhabit one island and are called by a common name, do them now, so that we may leave behind to our children both the name and reality of freedom, while we still remember it. For if we utterly forget our natural state of happiness, what will our children do, nursed in slavery? I do not say these things so that you will hate your present circumstances, for you have hated them, nor so that you will fear what is to come, for you have feared it, but so that I may laud you, because you have by yourselves chosen all the necessary steps. And thank you for readily working together with me and each other. Do not at all fear the Romans, for they are neither more numerous than we, nor more brave. And the proof is that they are covered with helmets and breastplates and greaves, and besides prepared with stockades and walls and trenches, so as not to suffer from an attack of the enemy. For they are overpowered by fears, unlike us who act offhandedly. We truly enjoy such an abundance of bravery that we consider our tents more secure than their walls, and our shields far more sufficient than their full suits of armor. As such, overpowering them, we capture them, and overpowered, we flee. And if we decide to withdraw somewhere, we slink away and hide in such marshes and hills that we can't be found or seized. But the Romans, because of their heavy armor, are not able to do that. So the quotes from Boudicca do go on. I haven't added them in there. Effectively, what Boudicca is saying is that this occupying force is as much an occupation of the mind as of the physical environment. And if we free our minds and follow our hearts, we emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, as Bob Marley said. So that's the background. And then the blog that I did builds on a video essay that I did at the beginning of lockdown, which is an hour and a half long. And I'm now going to read the ChatGPT summary of what that said. And this is just encouraging my fellow man and myself to continue to look within and continue to discover the connection to our past, to our ancestry. The essay delves into various philosophical timelines, including Eastern philosophy, Western philosophy, and the history of metals. These timelines offer a comprehensive overview of the evolution of thought and human civilization. A significant portion of the essay is dedicated to the exploration of creativity, critical thinking, the importance of leisure in fostering authentic expression. It emphasizes the value of idle hands in stimulating active minds and creative endeavors. Throughout the essay, there is an underlying theme of seeking deeper understanding and tapping into collective consciousness. It encourages readers to explore diverse perspectives, challenge established norms, and embrace creativity as a means of personal and society growth. Now, right there, that's what Olga Sheehan was saying. I'm not going to read the rest of that there. There's Boudica in her chariot, and now we're going to just have one final passage from one of Boudica's speeches. I give thanks to you, Andraste, and I call upon you as a woman to a woman, as one who does not rule over burden-bearing Egyptians as Nictris, or over the tradesmen Assyrians as Semiramis, for even we have already learned these things from the Romans, or over the Romans themselves, as did Messalina, then Agrippina, and now Nero, for though he has the name of a man, he is in fact a woman, as one can tell from his singing, his lyre playing, and his grooming. Rather, I rule over the Britons, who don't know how to farm or practice a trade, but have learned how to be consummate fighters and consider all things common, including children and wives. And as a result, the women have the same valor as men. Ruling over such men and women, then I both pray to you and ask for victory, safety, and freedom against insolent, unjust, insatiate, and profane men, if at any rate one should even call people men, who bathe in warm water, eat artificial dainties, imbibe unmixed wine, anoint themselves with myrrh, sleep on soft beds with boys, even ones past their prime, and are slaves to a bad lyre player. Truly may Misdomita Nero no longer rule over us, but let that singing girl be lord over the Romans, for surely they are deserving of being slaves to such a woman, since they have already put up with her playing the tyrant for so long. But Mistress Adraste, may you always be our only leader. Now, this is a poem, Return of the Fairies by Kelvin Oberon, which also talks about remembering. Another person that talks about remembering is actually Pythagoras. In Lucian's auction of the creeds, Pythagoras says, I will not teach you, I will remind you, for instance. He goes on to say how to be wise and learn to play the guitar. This is a song I wrote called Hecuba Screams, which is a reference to Modum maxima rerum tot generis nastis potens nunc to her excellent inops, but late on the pinnacle of fame, strong in many sons, now exiled penniless. Now, that is a quote from Ovid's Metamorphoses, and it's in the introduction to Kant's Critique of Pure Reason. Now, again, what Kant is doing is mourning the falling away of metaphysics in deference to pure reason, and this is the mistake. And it's a mistake which Blake is talking about in the Europe of Prophecy, the mistake of the French Revolution, etc. So I say again, say yes to life, free will, and liberty. Filling in gaps, reading between lines, etc. I wrote a poem. Actually, this is Conquest of Doe, and it's says here, brother, I will return to realize our forebears' journey of truth and peace. That's a theme that recurs throughout that novel, and it's harking back to connection in time and reconnecting with what's important and makes us human. So the Blake piece is my reading of it. I remixed with this Gaelic Symphony by Amy Beach. There's the full set of Genesis from which Selling England by the Pound is played. Here's my Conquest of Doe novel. And now we come to the satires of Juvenal. There's a link to the Wikipedian article on those. And then there are two articles which are quite interesting. One is a medical article, and it says who watches the Watchmen on the problem of recursive flea bites. Now, that's talking about peer review and how that's being corrupted in medicine. Clearly, PCR tests, anybody, experimental gene therapies, anybody. But outside of that as well, if you go and look at the book from Francis Sheehan on the cover-up of the harms of electromagnetic radiation, and there are lots of work that Francis has done on that, and you should look at it because it's the last enduring taboo of the lockdowns is 5G, and what is 5G for? Then there's this Schumpeter called bankers the E4s of debt, and this is a link to a paper, Financing the Capital Development of the Economy, which quotes Schumpeter and his reference to E4s, and E4s are the watchers of the kings. Who watches at the E4s? That's Juvenal. Then we come to The Age of Uncertainty, and John Kenneth Galbraith, and the episode on money. They're all in that link there. They're all on my YouTube channel as well. And then this poem I wrote actually when I was down in Tenby 2 years ago, and off the coast there's Mendy Island that has a monastery on there. It's a very, very sort of ancient, very holy place. There's actually a monk in residence who writes poetry, and beautiful poetry. You'll find it on the website of the monastery. But this is my poem cue here. Sisyphus pushed his boulder, the path smooth both ways, the same incline repeated, Parmenides-like determination. Prometheus chained over the hill, willing that Sisyphus may succeed, Pantarea-like to his own flame, both legends for deaf ears. Heraclitus his ebb and flow, crying metaphors to deaf masses, sobbing similes to blind tyranny, Calvary the summit to that bluff. Maimonides saw each contradiction, each species of deafness loud, each species of blindness dark, all no less perplexed than the next. Yet another Sisyphus rolls, yet another Prometheus reveals, yet another Heraclitus cries, yet another Maimonides interprets. Ancient and modern cueing, miscues and repeated lines, a dialogue of the divine comedy, stockaded in linguistic prison walls, plus échange, plus la même chose. So the blog sort of comes to an end with that, and there's just one more thing that I'm going to play at the end, which is a poem I wrote way back in 2011 called Bards of Wales. And I'm going to play out actually with the whole video, because in 2011 I was halfway along where I am now, if you in a way, and I'll let my younger self and longer haired self speak for me now.
Celtic bards speak out.
And the bards of Wales would not give praises to the conquering Edward. Instead, they spoke words of truth in poem and song, made insolence by violence of the crown, and they were burnt at the stake for the truth they spake. What principality this that burns its priests for speaking truth against the tyrant? The bards of Cymru, Cornwall, Retan, Syntagma, and St. Paul's reach out to us across the energy of reincarnated spirit and language, past heroes, deeds, and words emulated to assuage. At once the tyrant's tributes sought, these new Caesars take all, yet offer naught. Once more we offer insolence in poetry, song, rhyme, and reason, to tell the truth that's painted treason. I wrote that as an original poem back in April this year. I've been researching some of my own sort of Welsh heritage. And so, my friends, that is that. Thank you.